Hello, and welcome to Speak for the Trees virtual tree inventory training. This is the fourth video of a 7-part series designed to teach you how to inventory trees and planting sites in the city of Boston. In this video, we will cover how to add information about a tree in Open Tree Map. In the previous videos, you learned how to add a planting site location to the Open Tree Map and then add information about the planting site. If you had an empty planting site or stump, you are all set and do not need to add any more information. If you have a tree in your planting site, the following tutorial will help you add in the information about it. To start adding information, scroll down on your screen to the section called Tree Information. This section is immediately under the planting site information section. When you get here, there will be a series of prompts to answer. The first bit of information that you will need to input is if the tree is alive or dead. In warmer months, like July and August, it is easy to determine if the tree is alive or if the tree is dead. If the tree has green leaves on it, you can select that the tree is alive by tapping on Tree Is, selecting Alive, and then tapping Done. If a tree has no leaves in warmer months, the tree is likely to be dead. If a tree has no leaves in warmer months, the tree is likely to be dead. Tap on Tree Is, select Dead but Standing, and then Done. In colder months like January and February, it can be difficult to determine if the tree is alive or not. Many species of trees lose their leaves and enter a dormant state. Think of it like an animal hibernating in winter. If you cannot determine if the tree is alive or not, you do not need to make a selection here. You can skip the question until the warmer months. The next piece of information that you will need to enter is the tree species or genus. In our next video, you will learn how to identify different tree species and genuses based on their leaves, seeds, bark, and other unique characteristics. Use that video to determine the species of tree that stands before you. Once you have identified the tree, enter the species or genus onto Open Tree Map. To do this, tap Set Species. This will bring you to a long list of tree species and genuses. Each species will have two names listed for it. These are the common name and the scientific name. The common name will have large bolded text. The scientific name will be displayed under the common name in small gray text. For species, it will have a two-part name made up of the genus and the species' individual name. Genuses will just have the genus name. You can manually scroll through this list to find the tree species that you have just identified. Or you can search for the species by tapping on the search bar at the top of your screen. When you find the tree species, tap on its name. Open Tree Map will then bring you back to the tree information section. When the tree species or genus is determined and set, it is now time to determine your confidence in the tree species or genus that you have just selected. Tap Confidence in Species or Genus Identification. You will be prompted to select one of the three options. The first option is Very Confident. Select this if you think you have correctly identified the tree. The second option is Somewhat Confident. Select this if you think that you have identified the tree, but it could be a different species of tree that looks similar to it. The last option is Not Sure at All. This option should only be used if the tree cannot be identified at all. We recommend putting in a species or genus that looks as close to the tree in the planting site as possible and then selecting Somewhat Confident. Make your selection by tapping on one of the options, and then by tapping Done. Next, it is time to measure the tree. To do this, you will need to make two measurements. The two measurements will be used to calculate the diameter at breast height, or DBH. First, start at the base of the tree where the tree meets the ground, and then measure 54 inches up vertically. 54 inches up the tree is at breast height. Scientists measure the diameter of the tree here as a scientific standard. The second measurement is the circumference of the tree. Starting at the point where you measured 54 inches up, measure around the tree using a flexible measuring tape. Make sure that the tape is pulled tight and perpendicular to the direction that the tree is growing. Take note of this number and round it to the nearest half inch. To put this number into Open Tree Map, tap the box next to Tree Circumference, and type in the circumference to the nearest half inch. Be careful not to type this number in the tree diameter box. Open Tree Map will automatically calculate the tree's diameter for you based on the circumference you just typed in. Measuring the circumference of a tree is usually simple, but there can be some scenarios that you may run into that will alter the way you measure the tree. The first scenario you may run into is that the planting site is on a slope. For this, you will need to measure 54 inches up the tree from the higher side of the slope. Measure the circumference here at this point. If the tree is leaning, measure along the tree 54 inches from the ground up. When putting the measuring tape around, you will not need to keep the tape flat. Instead, the tape will be measured to be perpendicular to the direction the tree is growing. Remember to keep the tape tight around the tree and record the circumference to the nearest half inch. Some trees may have a deformity that is at 54 inches. Deformities can be round, outward growths called burls, or a place where a tree has healed over where a branch was cut off. If the tree you are inventorying has a deformity, measure the circumference above the deformity where the tree has its normal column shape. Last scenario you may run into is if the tree you are inventorying is multi-stem. Multi-stem trees have more than one stem, or trunk, growing vertically off the main trunk of the tree at a height that is less than 54 inches. If the tree has more than one stem at a height greater than 54 inches, the tree is not considered to be multi-stem. Be careful not to confuse a multi-stem tree with a tree with a low branch. To distinguish the two, a branch grows horizontally while a stem grows vertically. If you come across a tree that is multi-stem, measure the circumference of the tree below where the multiple stems start. When you are done measuring the circumference of the tree, you can go on to the next step. Below the place where you entered the circumference is the next place to add information about a tree. This spot to add data is only if the tree is multi-stem. If the tree is multi-stem, tap If the tree is multi-stem. And select Multi-Stem, and tap Done. If the tree is not multi-stem, you can skip this step and move on to the next data input section. You will now need to assess what percentage of the tree is green. This step can only be done in late spring to early fall when leaves are present on the tree. In winter, you do not need to do this step. Please skip this and move on to the next step. When you look at the tree, look at the branches and twigs to see what percentage of the tree has leaves. Notice if there are branches without leaves or if there are sections of the tree that do not have any leaves. When you tap on percentage of tree that is green, you will be presented with 4 options. The first option is vigorous foliage, 90 to 100% of the ground covered by leaves. Select this option if the tree you are inventorying has no bare spots or if there are a few bare spots on the tree. Second, you will see adequate foliage, 50 to 89% of crown covered by leaves. Select this if the tree you are inventorying has bare spots, some empty branches, or if the leaves are missing from a section of the tree. The third option will be sparse foliage, 1 to 49% of crown covered by leaves. This option will be used if the tree does not have many leaves on it, many of the branches do not have leaves, and if the tree has large bare spots. The last option you'll have is no leaves on trees. Use this option if the tree is dead and does not contain any leaves on it. Tap on % of tree that is green. Then, select one of the options. Tap Done when you have finished making your selection. Assessing the pruning of the tree will come next. Tap on Amount of pruning seen in tree. Here, you will be presented with two options, None to Some or Extreme. For the option None to Some, choose this if the tree has had none of its branches cut off, or if there were a few branches cut off to help promote growth. A tree with None to Some pruning should have a normal tree shape to it. For the extreme option, select this if the tree has been cut to have an unusual shape to it, like a crescent moon or the letter U. These unusually shaped trees are often found growing underneath overhead wires. Only select Extreme if the tree does not have the normal tree shape to it. Make your selection by tapping on one of the options and by tapping Done. When you have finished your analysis on the percentage of tree that is green and the amount of pruning that you see, you will need to look at the other features found around the tree. To look at the list of features, tap on Other Features Found on Tree. For each feature that you see on or around the tree, select it by tapping on the feature. If you do not mean to tap on a feature, you can deselect it by tapping on it again. Here is a description of each of the features that you may encounter and will need to select if you come across them. Sucker growth. This feature is defined by small vertical branches that grow near the base of the tree. This is a sign that the tree is stressed. Discoloring of leaves. If you notice that the leaves have colors that are unlike those typical to the species, like lighter or darker patches, or colors that are not green, select that there are discoloring of the leaves. This can be a sign that the tree is not in good health. In fall, leaves will naturally change colors from green to yellow, orange, red, or brown. You do not need to mark this feature in the fall months. Tree leaning. If the tree is not growing straight up and is instead growing at an angle, select this option. Some trees may have a slight lean to their growing. As a rule of thumb, select this option if someone cannot walk along the edge of the planting site without hitting their head on the tree. Metal grate constricting tree trunk growth. If you selected that there was a metal grate in the site, look to see if the tree has room to grow. If the tree is starting to grow over the metal grate, select this option. This is unhealthy for the tree's growth. Trunk wounds. Some trees may have been injured. This causes their bark to be removed, exposing the wood below. If you notice a gap in the bark with a smooth center in the gap, this is likely to be a trunk wound. Make this selection if you notice a wound. Pooling water in pit. If there is water in a tree pit, this can be a sign of compact soil or poor drainage. Make this selection if there is water in the tree pit that you are observing. Wooden stakes near tree without wires or wooden stake near tree with wires around them. When younger trees are planted, they are sometimes given stakes to help them grow straight. If you notice stakes in a tree pit, you will need to select one of these two options. If there are no wires attached to the stakes and tree, select wooden stakes near tree without wires. If there are wires attached to the stake and tree, select wooden stakes near tree with wires around tree. Tape around trunk. If there's a flyer taped to a tree, or if there is old tape left on the tree, select that there is tape around the tree. If there's a flyer for an event that occurred 1 week or longer ago, you may remove the flyer and the tape from the tree. When removing the tape, be careful not to pull off the bark. Be gentle. Lights in tree. Lights in trees can be harmful to the tree if they are tightly wrapped around the trunk or if they are left for longer than a season. If you notice lights wrapped around the tree, or if there are lights hanging on the branches, select this feature. Bicycle locked to tree trunk. If you notice that someone has locked their bicycle to a tree, select this feature. Watering bag that is empty or watering bag that has water in it. Watering bags are used to slowly water a tree that has been planted within the last 2 years to help it establish its roots underground. If you notice a watering bag, look inside of it to see if there is any water. If there is water inside of it, select that the watering bag has water in it. If there's no water, select that the watering bag is empty. Select any of the features that you have found on or around the tree. When you are done making these selections, tap Done, and move on to the next step. You may not be making any selections. It's okay if the section is left blank. You can now proceed to the next step. The last bit of information to add is the Notes section. Tap on the box next to Notes to add not captured. Now you can type in a note. Typically, planting sites do not require notes, but there are a few cases where you may need to let a Speak for the Tree staff member know about something. There are 3 common notes that we often see: delete, incomplete, and insects. If you have misplaced a tree on the map, you can leave the word delete in the notes. A Speak for the Tree staff member will see this note and remove the tree or planting site from the map. If you need to stop inventorying a tree in the middle of the inventory process, you can leave the word incomplete in the notes. This can be helpful to you when you go back later to do the inventory, or if you need someone else to finish gathering data for you. Insects can harm trees in several ways, so taking a note on them will be helpful. If you notice small holes in the tree, see that the tree has many insects on it, or see that the insects have eaten many of the leaves, write a quick note about your observations. Finally, it's time to take a picture of your tree. For iPhones, scroll to the top of your screen and look for the Tree Details section. In that section is Tree Picture. Tap on Tree Picture and select Camera. For Android devices, tap on the camera button at the top of your screen. When you have the camera open, step back from your tree and go to the side of the sidewalk where the building or yard is. Do not go into the street. Take a photograph of the tree with the street behind it. Try to get as much of the tree in the photograph as possible. In the photograph, get something in the background that can be used as an identifier. This can be something like a fire hydrant, the entrance to a building, or a sign. When you are done taking the picture, select Use this picture. You will only need to take one picture for each tree you inventory. You have now entered all the needed data onto OpenTreeMap. Take the time now to review all the data that you have entered and check to make sure that you have completed all the required steps. When you are finished, you can tap Done on iPhones or Save on Android devices. OpenTreeMap will show that the tree is being saved and will then bring you back to the map. You will notice that there is a green dot on the map where you've placed and inventoried the tree. By tapping on the tree's banner at the bottom of your screen, you can look at the tree's profile. When you scroll to the bottom of the tree's profile, you will see the ecosystem benefits of the tree. The ecosystem benefits are the ways that the tree can help the environment, like filtering stormwater, cleaning the air, storing carbon, and conserving energy in the summer. Let's review what you've learned in this video. To start off, the information in this video is only used when there is a tree in a planting site. You would then scroll down to the tree information section to begin adding in the data. You first noted if the tree was alive or dead, then set the species of the tree and your confidence in it. After, you measured the tree and put the circumference into the app. If the tree was multi-stem, you noted that too. By looking at the tree, you selected the appropriate option for a percentage of tree that is green and the amount of pruning done to it. You then made closer observations of the tree and checked off any of the features that you had. If a note was needed, you wrote one out. Finally, you took a picture of the tree and saved all your work. In the next video, we will cover how to identify common street trees in Boston. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.